So today I'm joined by Graham. Graham is an ex-member of the Defence Forces with 14 years service.
Yeah.
And you're the operations manager now with Transdev and the interim operations director now.
Yeah, currently, yeah. I'll be the interim operations director probably till the end of this week alongside two others. But yeah, kind of an operations duty manager role is what I'm currently officially doing at the moment.
Yeah. And are you out of the army long now, are you?
I left the army in October of 2016. I actually came back from my last deployment overseas in the May of that year and left a few months later.
Yeah.
So I'm in the Luas since November. I obviously left the army to go into the Luas. Yeah.
And do you remember your first day going into the army, or?
I do, yeah. And the reason why it was weird because like I was only literally just past my 18th birthday and I was like a bit of an 18-year-old mammy's boy. Like, now I had a touch of OCD as a kid, so it probably helped me in a way when I joined the army, but it was an eye opener anyway. But it was because usually, as you know yourself, like when you start, everybody's in a big group. But I came in whatever way it was. I came in 2 days after.
Are you on the subs, eh?
I don't know what way it worked. I was supposed to start in December 2003. I ended up going in start of April 2004. So it was kind of they'd give me a week's notice, I think it was.
Yeah.
But I went in, but it was up and to get to Dundalk, so I thought it was naivety. I thought I was going to train in Dundalk. You get carrying bags and all that. I had to make my own way. Like I remember, like, at that stage, like I didn't have to travel like that in Ireland. Like, and getting Dundalk, and then it was like a truck there, and I was like brought on the back of a truck on my own up to Monaghan, and I was like, what's this all about? Just naive, like I didn't really understand. I had no family in the army, so there was no reference point where I could go and say, what's the story with this, or what happens here, or none of that. But I remember it was a Wednesday I went in, and it's that everybody else had started on the Monday, so I turned up, and in fairness, like I went into it, didn't know a single person, and everybody was very helpful. At this stage, I think there was 2 platoons. There was guts of 100 people like in the barracks. Yeah, it was huge. It's closed down now. It's an educational centre now.
Yeah,
but they educated me anyway. But it was like everybody was real helpful, and it was weird because you hear all the stories about being kept in for weeks and the whole lot. And I had this in my head. Like I was saying goodbye to my man and dad, my sister, not thinking I'd
never going
to see him again. And then Friday I was back home. Like for the first couple of weeks, obviously just bedding in. They let you go home on the weekends. Until it all kind of changed. The boot goes in after their 3 weeks. But I remember it was kind of like hectic. I remember just dragging bags. I didn't know what to pack. Like they don't give you. It's not as if they say bring this. So he brought me whole life in 2 bags, dragging it across bus stops and up the quays in town, up the bussards and all. But that's my first experience. It was an eye opener. Like now, in fairness, people are helping. Simple things like things that you'd never done. Like I didn't know what a bread was. And lads are there shaping it and shaving it and give me a big output. Like you see from day one the teamwork mentality and it's like all for one for all. Like no one people falling behind. I think that's the way I suppose.
What force prompted you to join the army? Like were you involved in sports or like were you being?
I don't know. I remember having a conversation with my dad around before my junior cert and telling him I wanted to leave school. I was never big into school. Like I went to a secondary school for first year and I just hated it. And I ended up changed in secondary schools at the end of first year, going to another one, and which was grand. I adapted. I was kind of always a chatty open person, played sport, this and the other. So sport was kind of my inroad into, I suppose, open discussions with people. Like I had a decent enough knowledge about football, like some people might say I would, but about sport in general, and that was my kind of. I'd always try to find common ground with people, like whether it was to do with, the only thing I ever enjoyed in school was like history and geography. Outside of that, I had no real interest. I'd always take the easy route, which I suppose I regretted later on in life. I wish I had done more with it, and it's probably that experience that I pass on to my kids as well. But I don't know why I wanted to leave after the junior cert. My dad said you can leave if you get an apprenticeship that you're going to stick to. And at that stage, I was like looking at mechanic stuff and all. And I'm glad I didn't at the time because I don't think that's just for me. Like it's just not for me. I think maybe I would have done that. And then not liked it and left and probably being a rock in a hard place. Like, but I think it was like, I always grew up looking at like action films and all, and that's any kid does. Like, but I was like, I actually wanted to join to do an apprenticeship in the army. And like, promised the sun, moon and stars to you in the interview, like you do this and you do that. And it never turned out. I probably applied 5 or 6 times. And here, probably realistically, the people who got the jobs ahead of me probably deserved them more than I did, or had better ability to do them. You know the age range in the army, it can be like 17 to like 30 odd. Like. So I kind of just joined, just wanted to do something, and maybe I seen it as kind of a grow up phase and hopefully see the world, which lucky enough I did to a point, like not the same way the world is.
Did you finish the leaving cert?
Did you? Yeah. I did during the leaving cert, yeah. And like I knew I was never going to go to college at that age. At that age, I ended up going to do college when I was about mid to late 20s. Like, I was in employment and stuff, which is even harder.
Yeah.
But because of this life skill so much, I was just happy to live. I wanted to go into a job that I could do.
Yeah.
And I was kind of seeing the army. I didn't want to go into a job. I wanted to go into a career.
Right. Yeah.
And at that stage, it's probably a lot easier to get into the army now than it was back then. So I went through the whole process in 2003. And it was hard to get in. I remember me fitness test in the Phoenix Park and stuff like that. All this type of thing. I was still quite young, nervous, didn't know where I was going, all that type of thing. But I wanted to have a career, not a job, if you get me. And I was looking at to say, well, I get through the hardship of the first initial years, and then maybe I'll get an opportunity to do this and see the world and have that kind of thing. So that was my mentality. I didn't have any army background. Kind of great grandfather was in the army. Back in like the year dot, like kind of thing. But I had no reference point. I didn't know anybody in the army at that stage.
You just kind of signed up.
I just wanted to do something. I wanted to do something that I suppose I could do myself, and I suppose make my family proud and stuff like that.
Definitely. Yeah. And then, so you're in Monaghan then were you in Monaghan for the whole 6 months, or was it where you started?
No, I was in Monaghan for the whole thing, and then at the end of it, the way they did it, I remember the 27 Battalion were the lead unit going to Liberia at the time.
Okay.
And because of that, and the place was going to be scarce up there, they actually kept us. So the lads who were going to the 2nd Battalion went to the 2nd Battalion.
Yeah.
The lads who were staying in the 27 Battalion obviously stayed there between there and Dundalk.
Yeah.
But I was going to the 5th Battalion, that was where I wanted to go. Even though I was from the south side, I was thinking, I didn't drive at the time. And the natural thing, it was easier to get to. It was one bus rather than two, and at that time we didn't have bus connects and transport like we do now. So it was one of them things I was like, well, I can get one bus to McKay and then you take the chance. But I remember they kept us up there, the lads who were going to the 5th Battalion, they kept us there for a while. I can't remember how long it was, it could have been a month, could have been two, it was a long time ago. But they kept us there for a while. But between the whole lot of it, I'd say the guts of a year up in Monaghan, like it was kind of different after obviously you pass out and stuff like that. Like, we didn't kind of get 2 feet forced into the 27 Battalion, but it was weird because you're so used to the screaming and shouting of it, and then it stops, and then people talk to you, and then it's like being able to go and kind of being the decision maker yourself rather than needing permission to do something. You could kind of make your own decision. So that was kind of that. I think we came down in November of 2004. So November, December. I remember we were down a couple of weeks before Christmas, so it probably would have been the start of December.
Did you get any courses then in
no, we were kind of just dogs bunnies, like kind of thing. We were
duties.
we were doing the duties because like most of the place was like a ghost town because most of them had deployed overseas to Liberia, which was one of the main overseas deployments at the time. So we were kind of making up the numbers and filling in for them until I suppose other people came back and they kind of got the numbers where they wanted it.
Were you long then waiting for your first overseas trip then after that then, or?
No, I went overseas. My first deployment, I went overseas to Kosovo. It would have been 2006.
Oh, okay.
2006.
2 years?
Yeah, not even 2 years probably. I think I actually went over, it was the October deployment to Kosovo.
Right, yeah.
And I remember I went on the first shock.
Yeah.
So you go over a couple of weeks earlier, and I stayed till kind of, it was nearly the advance party I went over on. It was just like I was a rifleman over there, which was grand. But I think all in all I probably did over 7 months altogether, like, because I went over on the early deployment and stayed till the very last shock. At that time, I had no kids. Obviously, I was young. It was I didn't have that type of money. Part of the decision making was obviously financial at that time. Like, I had no real experience with having my own money kind of thing. Like, because you know yourself, coming out of recruit training, it's not as if you'd be filling your pockets full of money kind of thing. Like, so
do you remember what you spent your overseas money on? Did?
Car.
Personal question.
Car, yeah. That was a great lad,
What kind of car did you get?
I went into a showroom, I remember up in Newlands Cross, and bought a Subaru and Pets out of the showroom. And it was nice for a while, and then you realise you don't have overseas money and how am I affording this? But I remember I had it for a while and it's like that, but you're young. And in fairness, like, there's no real, I don't think it's a bad thing. If you're a single man with no house, why not? Like, because it's different then. I suppose in the later overseas trips, there was mortgages to be paid, there was childcare. You didn't have that financial flexibility. So yeah, some people may say you threw the money away. We say I enjoyed it. I went on holidays, did me bits and pieces. Yeah, that was my thing.
It's recommended that you kind of blow the first one, right?
Yeah, I'd always say to people, like, even when I was serving, like, lads going on their force and you'd be just having chit chat with them, or if you're overseas and there's lads on their force deployment and stuff, like I was lucky enough, I did a few trips overseas, but like, lads would be on it, and I'd probably say to them, not blow it, but do something that's you'll remember. Like I don't remember doing anything other than a holiday and buying a car, like, but it was probably just to have that, like, and at the end of the day, I came back, I was probably 20 when I came back from overseas, like, still you think you're older, but it was probably, even with the army, I'd always say to people, I don't think I started maturing until I was about 23, like, it's probably the guts of 5 years in the army before I really kind of opened my eyes to the world, and after having an overseas, you kind of, you settle into, I suppose, a mature phase of life.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I came back from overseas, I think I bought like a 5 Series BMW and went to Mexico.
Same to me. We went to America and bought an pretzel, like, and I remember your man's face. I remember going in with my mum. My mum with no car at all. Like, she's just. I remember going in, like, what was like 20, looking to buy a suit with your mum, and you could tell your man looking at me going, what's this lad coming in for?
Probably cost a fortune.
Here, probably big window. God knows what I paid for it. Probably over the odds of what it was up for, like, kind of thing. But that was my thing. And that here, I enjoyed it.
And so you're back from overseas now, you bought the car and everything. You're in the 5th Battalion now.
5th Battalion,
What kind of courses did you get to do when you're in the 5th Battalion?
I kind of did. I did like frontline infantry kind of courses. I did like a 0.5 course. 60 mortar course. I was never mad into signals type thing. Like, I was kind of. I think it's a 50-50 split in the army. I think half of the lads that you come across are great lads in the army. I used to have it petrified. Now, give me a weapon all day long or whatever like that. But handing me a Singar radio, now my fear would be having to put the information back into it. Like, even towards the end, I think I only really became very comfortable on it. I put a lot of work into it before the NCO's course. I kind of said, right, there's no point putting effort into stuff you know you can do. Like, I had a good base of fitness at the time. I didn't have to put, but I was like, right, how am I gonna, map reading was one thing that I was always kind of flaky on, and that I ended up putting a lot of effort in before my NCO's course and Singar, but I didn't do Singar courses and stuff like that. I was kind of a bit over dependent on other people, but I did ended up doing driver's courses and stuff like that, that type of thing, and that's the kind of way I kind of went. I think it was only a couple of years after I came back from my force deployment, I ended up going into transport. I came out of the infantry unit. I went into 5th Battalion transport kind of thing, which was weird in a way because most of them are really old lads who'd done 20, 30 years, and I was like the young buck in, like, so, which is grand. You see the other side of the army, it's not as hectic and not as crazy, but as time consuming as any other role, because
still kept busy though, right?
Yeah, very busy. Kept very busy.
So when you done your driver's course then, right? Because you went into transport, did you do like your Jeep and trailer, minibus, and then
did the whole lot at that stage?
At
that stage I learned how to drive. So I think I got driver's lessons when I was about 19. Christmas, I think my mum and dad got them for me. At that stage, it wasn't like now we had to do your 10 lessons and all that. I think I got 5, and I picked it up quick enough. I think between starting and doing my lessons and having a full license was about 7 or 8 months, so I was lucky enough. And so when I did the driver's courses in the army, I had a full license. I did like as you say, the driver's course, Jeep and trailer, truck, and then we kind of split. You know yourself, and you get the people either go and do like the
Mowags.
I ended up going to do Mowags, like So I went down to the court and did the Mowag course.
So Mowags, that's like the personnel carrier, the armoured personnel carrier.
Armoured carrier, So you're looking at about 18.5 ton, fully laden, the 3 weapon systems, the whole lot on it, like, which is, like, you say that now to people, and like, even though you explain to people like what it is. I think I used that in my interview going into the Luas as well, like that. What do you do now? And, like, you're over it, and you think of what my attitude going into job interviews, and I always say to other people, don't tell them what the other 5 people coming in, like, think outside the box. What can you offer them that the next fella can't? Like, and that was my kind of thing. I drove tanks, and, you know, like, which I did. So it was grand, and it ended up doing 3 more overseas tours in the Mowag, on top of the one. So it was grand. But so that's kind of I went down the kind of transportation role and stuff like that, and that's kind of where I ended up. I didn't do an NCO's course till later in my career,
Right.
but yeah, I was a private in transport and stuff like that.
Where else did you serve overseas in Norwex?
I was in Chad,
Right.
a good stint in Chad, and I did two deployments to Lebanon, like with 2 different ones. Yeah, so I'd always like to. My attitude when I was going over, try to get the most out of it. Like Chad was kind of like a 4-month trip, obviously with being in Africa, the heat, taking delirium, it's just being in the news here, there and everywhere.
Yeah.
It's different than a kind of Europe. So I'd done Europe and
Yeah.
like I had the mix in Kosovo of your sunny summer and your really cold winter, like which is like outrageous, different variation of it.
Yeah.
And then I had Chad, which was a different animal altogether, like out in the Sahara Desert, like in a tent. And then you think of it like you're driving a Mowag where like the heat coming off the Mowag is about 120 degrees. We used to throw our food on the front of it as we drove. We used to do 3-hour blocks driving the Mowags on the long distance patrols. Throw your food on it, and by the time you get there it was cooked. There was no need for cooking or anything like that, which is mad to think about and you explain that to me, but that's just where we were at, yeah. And then as I said, I did a couple of tours to the lab, yeah.
What was your favourite trip out of them all?
I'd say probably my last deployment to the lab, solely because it was the only one I did as a corporal.
Right.
As I said, I'd a good stint done as a private. The only kind of regret about kind of the army never was leaving or anything like that. Was I should have done an NCO's course much earlier, like that type of thing. I was definitely no super soldier, like, but I always found when you go into them courses, like if you know the basics and you have a good base of fitness about you, that was 2 big things as you know yourself, like. But I regret not doing it earlier. I regret not having more time as an NCO and doing more tours overseas and being in that kind of role, because not that I'm saying it would have kept me there, but I would have probably enjoyed the last few years a bit more than probably I did. Like. But it was probably that tour, yeah. But in fairness, Chad was an absolute eye opener. Hellish type of stuff. Not so much the workload, just the heat. Like you're just dealing with like 40, 50 degrees. It's like, we're Irish, we're not Jews. We're not built for the heat, no. So that was an eye opener. Like, and obviously the rations type thing, and you hadn't got freedom of food as what you were very over dependent and stuff. But outside of that, like Kosovo was a really good trip as well, because it's your first one, and like you see that type of this is how it is, and it's like you find your kind of your niche and kind of your own responsibility and stuff like that. Like, but they all had their goals and bads, like but probably the last tour being an NCO.
Did you find there was much pressure on you being overseas, like being an NCO, like being in like a management role, or was it kind of pretty similar, like everyone knew their job?
Yeah, I was comfortable in what I was doing. So my last deployment, like as I said, I did my first tour overseas as a rifleman, and then the next 3 were all in a Mowag role, Mowag driver, and then I was a Mowag NCO at the last one. And I didn't really, because one of the main things that I always really enjoyed in the army was dealing with the Mowags. It was like, because there was such a small number, like it's not as if everybody in the army or everybody in some walk of life can say, I drove a tank for a living, like, which is great.
And support everyone wants as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really hard to get at the time, and I remember like even we used to pick them up obviously in the current and stuff like that, and you could drive them to nice road and you thought you were a great lad and stuff like that, like, and people would be looking at it. But like I see it now, my young lad is 8, and if he's saying them, he'd be, oh my god, like, it was great, which is great. But no, I always enjoyed that, and I think I never felt under pressure being away in an NCO role, because I was in the Mowags, and at that stage I was confident in what I had to do with it, very familiar with it. I got on. I always like to think that I had a good rapport with people, and I'd like to think that even I brought that into kind of civilian life, that I always make sure you have a good rapport with the people around you. You're very, and you, as you know yourself, and anybody that you speak to from the army, there's a very big over dependency on having a good core group around you, because you can't be it alone. You can't be the lone man, like, because that never really gets you good in the long term. You have to be, and it's one thing many people tell you, as cheesy as it is, the army at times is more of a brotherhood and a family. With still some of my best mates that are lads I joined with. I'm 8 years out of the army, nearly the end. One of them was my best man at my wedding, all this type of thing. Like, you never lose contact with them. You always keep that core group with you that you kind of are friendly with for the rest, because they understand you better, because it's
they definitely get you. Yeah.
they definitely get you. I have some mates that I grew up with, and like they'd have a certain percentage of understanding for you, but you can't really understand someone to the point where other lads are sergeants you can, because you know hardships and expectancies and things like this that you come across. Like
you're constantly like with them together, like all the time.
Yeah, like you
for
think about like
6
some of the
months
best
at a time.
mates, some lads, and at the time I used to say to myself, my last overseas tour, I was in a room with
2-man rooms or 4-man rooms?
I was in a 4-man room,
Yeah.
and there was me, another NCO who was still one of my best mates, and 2 privates who were extremely good mates, and I used to say I'll never lose contact with these.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's just what happens. You think you're in this bubble, a military bubble, that you think that you're never not going to have the best of mates, and like it's just like the way the world works, and you leave and stuff like that. Sometimes you have to leave these people behind.
Yeah.
And you end up having the only relationship you have with them is through social media and stuff like that, and you reach out. But it's like things like I could bump into someone I served in town, and I've often done it. My wife would see, and she'd be like, "Who was that you were hugging over there?" And it's one of them things like you're never not part of the brotherhood, like whether they're serving or gone, and it's great to see, and it's an experience people who never were in the army will never have.
Yeah,
it's a very small minority of people. Like
the conversation always picks up that where it left off from like the last time you've seen. Maybe you haven't seen for like 3 or 4 years. Like the conversation just picks up.
And it's you're never like it's like what are you doing now and what are you doing, and you're hoping and wishing that they're in a good place and that they're doing well for themselves and that type of thing. But it's definitely one of them things. Like as I said, like I'm nearly 8 years gone. I could meet someone who I haven't seen since I left 8 years. And there's no awkwardness and stuff like that. You meet them in shopping centres or town or nights out. But as I said, it's great when you come across them, because you kind of feel, I wouldn't say you feel emotional, but you kind of have that bit inside you. You say like, I'm glad that I met these people, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And you decided to leave then after 13 years.
I knew going on my last deployment I was going to leave.
Okay.
I had a plan.
You were done.
Yeah, I knew I was done. I had a plan in my head, and people who know me and who are overseas me would be able to tell you that I had a plan, and I'd always be. I'm not the one. I'd be organised to a point.
Yeah.
My wife may disagree, but I'd be organised to a point, and I knew me race had been run. Like I knew, as I said, gone on my last deployment, my young lad was 10 months old, which is hard. It's the only tour I went on that I had a child. Yeah. Other than that, you have girlfriends and stuff, but you can leave them. Not saying it's easy to leave them, but you leave them. And in fairness, like obviously I had a conversation with my wife at the time. 2012. I went overseas to Lebanon, and I was she was my girlfriend at the time, she's my wife now. Yeah. And she went into her bubble, I went into mine. Yeah. And although you miss each other, you kind of find your own things. Like I always found, especially probably, I came home, and the reason I knew I was going to leave after the last deployment, I didn't know I was going to leave as quick, but I had kind of a 6-month plan in my head. Okay. And I remember I was coming home on leave, and I didn't tell her I was coming home, because I'd always come home and everybody was in the airport, and I said to myself, I'm never coming overseas again. And it was great, because I had that calmness about me, that I knew I was done. I knew my decision was made, and that I came home as a surprise. And nobody knew I was coming home. I thought I was going on a patrol, and I was on an outpost for a few days.
So right back in the door.
There we were, right back, and she came in, and she would say, "What are you doing here?" But like, as much of it was great, she found her routine. Yeah. While I wasn't there, and I kind of messed it all up. And as well, when you come back, like I say to people, it's hard when you come back, because you've had your routine, they've had theirs, and then you're kind of in. And I left when my young lad was 10 months old, left for the deployment, and at that stage he was a baby, and I came home, and a few months later, and he was like crawling and stuff like that, and you feel guilty you've missed so much. But I knew I can't do this when I'm older. Yeah. So I knew my race had been run. Yeah. And lads I was overseas with, and they'd say, and I'd tell them, like, I'm not coming back, I'm leaving. And they'd be saying, and I said, I'm leaving. I know I'm gone, I know I'm done. Like the wheels in motion, and I'd kind of been putting a plan in place for myself, like, and that's what I kind of I did. Did you
decide to leave like kind of like before you went overseas, or was it while you're overseas you decided you were leaving?
I'd say probably about 6 months before I went overseas.
Yeah, you made an exit plan.
Lucky enough for me last overseas. Unlucky for one person, they were only over there a couple of weeks, and they came home. So I went over, I had no form up to do. It was one of them, straight to the airport and gone. I was probably given a week's notice at that stage, and literally it was like, take a couple of days, pack your stuff. And I remember going home and saying it to my girlfriend at the time and stuff like that. like, I'm going overseas, like, when? I'm like, next Tuesday. I say it Wednesday. She's, what?
Gone for 6 months.
Yeah, but it was great. She backed me.
Yeah.
She'd been a great backing. Like even when I was leaving, she backed me. Although she was hesitant and it was hard when I left, and you have to come through your hardships to get your success. But it was grand. But it was one of them things I knew about 6 months before, and I took it on short notice, purposely because I said to myself, "This is my last one.
Yeah.
I know I'm gone. I get a few quid, and at least I live." You're not pulling up trees financially. The overseas money is obviously different than at home.
Yeah.
It's probably the main reason why a lot of people go away. But that was kind of my thought process, and I'm gonna do this, do my last one, get it out of the system, and that's me. Like, you know.
It's fair enough.
Yeah.
And how did you? So you left then. You had a job lined up. Then you started applying for jobs when you were overseas, did you, or was it when you came back?
It was actually an off-the-cuff conversation I had with a friend of mine at someone else's wedding, and I'd been saying kind of I want to live. I want to live, and she was working. She was actually leaving. She was working in HR in the Luas, and she was telling me that there was driver's jobs coming up.
Yeah.
And I was like, right. And she told me this. I'd spoken to her about this probably before I deployed overseas.
Okay, yeah.
And she said, "Oh, there's jobs coming up. I'll let you know when they come up."
Yeah.
Because the Luas is not the type of thing where, like, you see Dublin bus going around now, and on the front of all the buses we're hiring, we're doing this. The Luas is never really that type of thing. And I wanted to live and go into something again. I left the army at 31.
Yeah.
I wanted to go into something that I could see as a career. Like when I joined the army, I thought that was me for life. And then obviously
things change.
Yeah, situations can dictate then. But I wanted to go into something that was a career, and I seen this as a career.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And she said to me when I came back from overseas, it was probably only had a few weeks notice. I'd say probably 6 weeks. There's a driver group starting. Send in your CV. She was like, I'm leaving before Christmas. This was starting in November. So I was like, right, and I applied, and lucky enough I came through the interview. It was fun. I did the interview obviously while I was still serving, did that, and I got the job. So obviously I had to line up then. I didn't tell anybody in the army, like,
right.
I didn't want to say I was going, because like that, as you know yourself,
you
tell people you're leaving. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and you end up kind of in a rock, and it's not a judgmental side of you, but he's always gone, and this.
You get a stick.
You get a stick, yeah. You get a stick about anything. Yeah. But I said to myself, now I'll let them know when I have an official offer and contract from the Luas that this is your starting date and this is your job.
Okay.
Because I had to do a medical, obviously, to leave the army. I had to do a medical to go to the Luas. Had to do all this, and lucky enough, it all lined up, and I probably had about a 5-week window of you got the job in the Luas, and then I had to like call in favours really to get me kind of exit and medical done and stuff like that, to make sure it was all above board for me start date, because I couldn't miss it. Like, I made the decision then. I'd had the conversation with my fiance at the time. We were married, and I decided, so it was all go. And then when I eventually had that, I remember going in and telling them that I was leaving, and that was that really kind of thing. I hung my hat on it, and away I went. And like the way it worked, because I'd leave and I'd this, that and the other and the whole lot, I think I was still technically in the army for the first 6 weeks of when I was in the Luas, like.
Yeah.
So
that's how it kind of works.
Yeah, there was an 8-week training course for a Luas tram driver, like, so I think towards the end of the training I was actually officially gone. I did my official exiting date kind of thing, like. And that was that, like, and I think I was officially gone the middle of December, and that was off 2016, like. And bearing in mind I'd only come home May 2016 from overseas, like.
So it kind of happened for you pretty quickly once you.
And I think it was better that way, because I think if I had too much time to think about it, there would have been a higher chance of me changing my mind or kind of, because as you say, the word, you probably other people, I was institutionalised at that time, and I had a definite 80-20 split. 80% of me wanted to leave, and 20% was really, really scared about leaving, because it was all I knew. Like many other people who do, I think it's different. Not that it's different. I think people who do 3, 4, 5, 6 years, they leave a bit easier than people. And as you said, I'd over 13 years done. It was a huge change for me. Like, that's all I knew.
Yeah.
And the fear is, if it doesn't work out, you can't just go back and knock on the door and say, "Listen, can I have my job back?"
Yeah.
I know you did.
A few others.
A few others. But I was in the.
Yeah, I was in that like 4-week window.
Yeah, but I think mine at this stage, I was saying to myself, right, and a part of me was pride as well.
Yeah.
And like that, you go back and
Dick for going
big
back.
time. Yeah, I'd say you did, yeah. And then I'd say you got more stick when you were leaving
go
again.
again,
So you were going again.
No, watch out,
Yeah, you don't watch out. But I wanted to be the type, and I was always like very clear in my decision making that this is what I'm doing, and I'm leaving, and I'm gonna make it work.
Yeah.
Right, wrong, or different. And that's what I did, kind of thing. Yeah. So November 2016, I started in the Luas, and it's a very start.
So it's an 8-week training course then you do to be a Luas driver.
Yeah.
Is it hard, like the training that you go through to be a Luas driver, or is it handy enough for it?
No, it's not handy. And people had this.
Yeah, because it could have looks like you're just sitting in the car and just push the outcome.
What do people say? Pushing the apple kind of thing, but it's not like that at all. No, and I think it's, in a way, I said this before to people. Like, I think Luas drivers and soldiers are kind of in the same bracket of people don't really, not that they don't respect it enough. They should do, but I don't think they understand the role, and that like that it's harder than what you think. Like, but the Luas training was an eye opener. Like, it was my thing was the concentration level needed. Obviously, you're driving a tram, like 50 meters long, a couple of hundred people on it. You're leading that tram at the most. Like, what was driving the truck or a Mowag with, they say, 8 to 12 people in it. That type of thing, where now you have hundreds of people, you were driving that. And it was like the fatigue, mental fatigue. I never knew tiredness like it at the start. It was just, I couldn't believe it. Like, it was just so, it wasn't physically draining, it was mentally draining for the pure concentration level. And that does go, not to saying your concentration level, it's like you're psychologically, able to deal with that a bit more.
Yeah.
And you start to learn, although you're hyper focused, that there's certain areas, depending on where you're going through, like come into traffic, there's segregated areas of line that you can kind of relax a little bit more, and other areas you're saying, right, you're sitting up and eyes going the whole time, because there's a higher chance of traffic in the area and signals and buses and trucks and stuff like that, and you're trying to avoid any conflict or any incidents. Like, but it is hard. It's one of them things, and you have to be comfortable in your own environment, because you're in the cab for up to 3 hours 45 minutes at a time, driving the tram.
That's how long it takes to get from
No, so the kind of the agreement would be, and it used to be over 4 hours. So like a shift can be ranged between 7 to 9 hours, 6 to 9 hours. The longest you drive a tram for at any one stage would be 3 hours 45 minutes. And then you have to have a minimum of a 30-minute break kind of thing. Like, but 3 hours 45 is a long time on your own. The mind is gone. If you're having a bad day, you're overthinking it in your head. If you have personal issues, you're overthinking it in your head. It can be either, some people are great, and I'm happy in my own company, but I thought I was much more happier in my own company, but then when you're on your own the whole time, you have no choice no matter.
It's different,
you're craving for an old chat. And like, there's no, the only radio in it is your Motorola. There's no like radio, there's no like music going, nothing like that at all. You're just there looking ahead of you. People behind you, dealing with whatever goes on, and that's you, and you have to be kind of focused. Like, so it can be quite physically and mentally draining. Like.
How did you find then that like transition away from being surrounded by like people, even like when you're driving the army, probably people in the cab talking away? Like, how did you find that, like not having that team around you?
I said this to people before. The only way, I'd say, for the 4-6 months when I was on my own after the initial 8-week driver training in the Luas, I had such a huge sense of homesickness. Like, I used to be driving the tram through town and stuff like that, and like, you'd see lads that you served and stuff, and I just felt so sad. Like, well, I used to be like, what are you doing here? Like you're battling with your own kind of demons that don't exist, kind of thing. Because I just always felt like homesick. Like, what have you done? Like, you miss it, and you miss them, and you're looking at them, jealous of them being in, but they're probably more 90% looking at you, jealous that you've left. And I'd like to think that, like, a couple of people have probably said it, I think I'd probably laid the foundations for other people to live, because when I start making a success for myself, I think people then after said there is a life after the army, like people can make a success of it, and I'd like to think that people can look upon me and other people who've left, no matter what they're doing, like everybody lives for different reasons, and everybody lives for different jobs. Some people are more successful than others. But you'd like to think that you're kind of laying a foundation or a pathway for people to really say there is a life out there. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard at times. You have to have the hardship to get the success. But it's a possibility you can live and you can make it a success. Like, and people have left after me, and I've talked to them, and they say, "Oh, I've left and it was hard." Most people have the same kind of 6-month phase where they have that sense of homesickness and fear, really, to be honest, until you kind of say, right, it's done now, move on, this is your life now, this is your career, look ahead, not behind. Although, even now, like as I said, I'm nearly 8 years gone, I come across people, and I love coming across people, I love coming across army lads, and like that, like, we probably hadn't spoken since
back in the 7th
battalion, but I could sit here all day, yap to you, and it is what it is. Like, people,
I think we're chatting for an hour before we started.
Jobs change, but people don't, like, you have to change for your job and the role and stuff like that to a point, but the core kind of emphasis of you is the same person, and you share shared experiences, shared hardships, and I'm always more comfortable talking to army lads than civilians, and even at that now, like, and I do think it probably goes against me to a point where, like, I'd like to think that I don't really have a grey area. I'm quite black and white when it comes to certain things, like, because
you have a certain ignorance around you, maybe, or you can be perceived having a certain ignorance around you.
Like, because, like, I can't, like, I'd like to think that if there was a situation happening that I am quite calm in my decision making, I'd definitely say that people would agree with that, and it's not probably talking myself up, it's just you're always going to come across instances, no matter what job you do, where there's a heightened sense of expectation, pressure, but I kind of feel comfortable doing things like that, but it's definitely a thing where if we ask you to do something, I just want you to do it. Like, I don't want to have a discussion with it. Like, this is what I'm asking you to do. I'm very militarian, and I probably like that at home as well. Like, but you kind of can never leave them certain parts behind you, and I'd be very surprised that anybody who's done a good stint in the army can live and just be a different person. And it's like it's simple things like, I'm asking you to do it, I want you to do it, come back to you when it's done. And it's very similar to the army, like, and you kind of have to be, depending on the role you're in, delegating things and stuff like that. You always have to have that certain kind of percentage of you where you can kind of see both sides of the coin and take on board guidance and stuff like that. But at the end of the day,
you need a job done right.
You want the job done, you want it done right.
That's it, because military leadership and, like, civilian leadership, or management even as well, more so is than leadership. It's like in the army, it's like, do that, and I want it done now, I want it done in the next 10 minutes, right? Whereas, like, it's in civilry or whatever, it's like, oh, can you do this? Or would you mind doing that for us?
Yeah, like in the army, especially when you're, like, especially, you know yourself, when you're an NCO, you're not asking someone to do something, you're telling them to do it.
Whereas,
like, in civilry, you can't tell someone to do something.
It's like,
because
you're asking them to do it, but you're actually telling them.
Yeah, like, as you know, we were in PD4, when, like, PD4,
the union,
not that I really asked for anything, but I probably went 13 years never needing them, but they never came near me, whereas civilry and, like, big companies are very unionised, collective agreements, that type of thing, and it's a completely different world you're working in, and even to the point where how you approach a person, not a situation. Like, in the army, you would, like, someone who outranks you wouldn't tell them no, like.
You just get done.
It is what it is.
That's
it, like, and you might not be happy about it, but you go and did it, you'd be giving out, and you'd be cursing yourself, and you'd be cursing them and stuff like that. But, like, you can't really have that approach. Although you need jobs done in civilry, you kind of have to approach the situation and the person different. And sometimes you're taking that feedback just to let them think that they have a bit of feedback, but realistically,
you need the job done.
You need the job done, and if having a quick 5-minute conversation about what their view on it is, that's grand, but this is what.
This is what we need to do.
And it's like that, and you're going to deal with that no matter what role you go into, and I have that. I'm sure there's people who outrank me in my job who probably plumaz me to a point where they might take on board my opinions, but at the end of the day, I'm still leaving the office at around doing exactly what they're asking me to do, no matter what my kind of feedback is, and that's just the way it is. Like, there's more of a discussion around it rather than a delegation kind of thing. Like,
and you progressed in Transdev or with the Luas. Anyway, how long were you a Luas driver for? Sorry.
I was a Luas driver for about 18 months.
18 months.
Okay. That's first
function was pretty quick, so
it was quick. I can't remember if it was 15 or 18 months I was driving for. It was one or the other. But at that stage, I had this kind of 5-year plan in my head saying, I'm going to go into the Luas, I'm going to drive for 5 years, and then I kind of want to start looking for promotion after that. But I kind of realised after about probably a year, I was like, I can't do it in 4 years this week.
Just being on your own kind of thing.
That as well, and personally at the time, my father was going through a battle with cancer, so I was struggling on my own in the cab kind of thing, to a point where like too much time to think.
Yeah.
You know, what if this, what if that, what if this, and you're playing this constantly over, which is even more mentally fatiguing than kind of anything. And I was saying to myself, and I remember actually I applied for a couple of jobs as a security guard. I was going to leave the Luas, like and I remember I applied, and like at this stage I didn't know what LinkedIn. I never had to do a CV, because you know yourself, going into the army you don't need a CV.
No.
Realistically, did I do a CV when I was going to the Luas? Probably a very basic thing. I hadn't got a whole lot that I had to put down. It wasn't as if I was going in with a 4-page essay. I've had these 5 jobs. I've been in the army since I was just about 18, and now I'm looking to drive a Luas.
And that's a big problem as well, like lads just don't.
Yeah, there's no education on that, like, and it's a big thing. Like, I know we spoke, like, there's a pre-retirement course, and I always viewed it as it's for people 21 years and done, or 31 and that were leaving. It was never something that was offered to me. It was never something that I looked for. And like, you think of it now, not many people in the army do 14 years now. It's very much a short term. It's not a career, it's a job. It's a 5-year thing. And gone, and use that as a CV builder kind of thing to go. But it's one thing, probably a negative of the army, they don't kind of educate people with service done that are looking to leave. It's all their own documentation. It's not really bringing you in to say, like, do you need tips for an interview? Do you need, which I think should be, because although you don't want people leaving, and I know they struggle for numbers at the moment, it's definitely not the job I joined 2004, but you should still have that kind of emphasis on helping people with the decision making. If they've decided that they're gone, there's no change for them. Help them on their way. Don't turn your back on them. But I do think that there should be kind of, no matter how much experience or how much years you've done, there's an obligation there to make sure you're a success when you leave. Like, you don't want to see people falling on hard times. I'm sure there's many people who have left the army who have fallen on hard times, which is very sad to see, because as we've said, it's more of a brotherhood. No matter whether you knew them or not. Like, at the time, at the height of the numbers, I think there was 9,500 people in the Defence Forces in a country with a population of 5.1 million or whatever it is. It's a very, very small percentage, and you should always kind of look after your own, like, type thing. Like, and it's probably one downfall of the Defence Force, where they don't kind of prepare people for life after the army, like, because you're going out with completely blind. Like.
Yeah, it's tough, and that is that's a massive problem we see, like, because lads will, like, you have all this experience, right? Like, you've got, like, even if you do like an NTO course, like, what is an NTO course? Well, it's a 6-month robust leadership course.
Completely. Like, in them 6 months, you probably gain more leadership knowledge than people who've been non-military in City Street for 10 years. And now you do leave it, and you have your Carla YT thing, which is big. And at the time, you think as a box ticker, that's a college qualification, and you can put it on that for the rest of your days, which is like a Defence Forces leadership type thing. And some of the best leaders in the world, you look at America and all these other countries, some of the greatest leaders in the world have come from a military background. You see so many Americans in big conglomerates, big businesses who served in Vietnam, served in the First Gulf War. It's huge, and it's only really, you can definitely see, like, in the Luas we would have a lot of ex-Defence Forces. That's come from military police, infantry, transport, stuff like that, and they're definitely, I wouldn't say they're different to everybody. They kind of have a different mentality and way about themselves, kind of thing. Like,
it's just kind of like get the job done. You know,
there's less need for a big kind of beating the drum of like, this is not a conversation. This is like, I need this done.
Just get it done.
And it's not that you're going into rooms pointing fingers and telling people what to do, but sometimes you just need something done, and it's done. And sometimes with lads who are ex-army, it's a bit easier. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes other lads who never served are brilliant. They're great, and you come across all walks of life, as you know yourself, in City Street, from the small town and down the country to the hustle and bustle of Dublin City or Limerick or up the north and stuff like that. So everybody has different mentalities and things. Like.
Definitely. And I think the army, right, the lads, like, well, not, like, everyone that's been, like, through military training, like, they understand, like, the bigger picture. Whereas, like, if you're asking someone at a desk to just do something small, it might be like, oh, well, can someone else not do it? It's like, well, can you just do it?
But you're kind of a cog in the wheel, really. You kind of want to have that understanding that, like, your output helps someone else to help someone else. So you might be level 2 of a 10-part thing, like, especially when you're overseas, like, even simple things. You ask someone, say, going back to Mowag, you ask someone to do a weekly on a Mowag, which is a maintenance. They're going, oh God, I don't want to do this. But realistically, that's so that the vehicle is in a good place, so that if you're called upon a short notice, whether it's a quick reaction force or whether it's a long range patrol, that the vehicle that's your home, that's your that's your piece of like military equipment, that's in a good place. So you're asking them to do it weekly to make sure it's done properly, so that in a week's time that's in a good place. Like the easy thing to do is not do it and stuff like that, and then it goes out, and the last thing you want is it breaking down or anything like that. It's definitely not
bigger headaches. Yeah.
Bigger headaches, but it's people understand that it's a kind of cog in a chain and things like that. Where not that I'm saying history is different, but in a way it is, and it's probably the biggest eye opener for people who've done it probably a good few years in the army. It's nearly like you have to retrain yourself and your understanding of people and situations, really.
Yeah.
And your approach as well. Like sometimes I forget myself and maybe you go a bit too headed into a situation, and then afterwards you reflect on it. You talk to yourself, I should have done that. Like I should have had a bit more decorum about myself, that type of thing. But sometimes you end up going back to the person that you once were, and that's the end of it. Like you have to see
the bad man comes out.
Sometimes the bad man has to come out and all right, and that's in all walks of life. Like
that happens everywhere.
It is, yeah. You forget yourself. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it changes people's view on you. But sure, this is life, and we just.
It is what it is, right?
It is what it is, yeah.
Grant, and you're the ops manager now and the interim ops director. What does your job consist of now on like a day-to-day basis?
So on a day-to-day basis, so there's three of us in my kind of shift rotation, so it's kind of like we're all holding kind of what could be explained as an operations duty manager's role, but like that, as I said, we're kind of holding the interim position as well until another couple of weeks. The new director's coming in, but kind of on a day-to-day basis, the main thing is you're linking in. It's the service delivery. It's a vast amount. Like it's probably hard to explain, but like you're linking in directly with the NTA, National Transport Authority, TII, Transport Infrastructure Ireland. You're linking in with Dublin Bus. You're directly linking in with Irish Rail. You're directly linking in with Safety Department. You're ensuring that you're linking in with the planning department. So you say it, like people probably don't have an understanding. Like on a weekday, there's 64 different duties in the red cow, say 64 different duties. I'm not saying there's 64 trams out there, but like there's 64 different duties. It's nearly a 24-hour thing, like because and I'd have a lot of on call in it, and you'd be taking calls here, there, and everywhere because like something could happen during the night, whether it's an infrastructure issue with like you link in like three main departments within the Luas. You have operations, you have infrastructure, which is all the kind of overhead power lines, electrical side of it, that type of thing, and then maintenance, which is like the tram. So the tram goes through a service every 24 hours. It doesn't go back online until it's being serviced, which is a big job. But like the main kind of role that I do now is kind of like service delivery. You're looking at, you're monitoring if there's any safety related incidents. Kind of you have in between my role and the driver's role, there's a team leader, incident manager role, so there's 6 of them, so they kind of link in. But they've the direct, there's about 240 active drivers across the 3 depots. Brownbridge, Sandyford are all green line, and then Red Cow is the red line. So they're linking into the team leader, incident managers, and then they kind of link into us. But you kind of work as an operations team. So an operations team would be the 6 team leaders, and then the 3 of us who hold my role. And you're making sure that the service is out there on time, it's running on time, and like even down to the finances of it. So if a tram is not on time, there's a financial impact on it then, and that you're trying to minimise the financial impact, but providing a full service. And then obviously into it as well, like post-event management. So recently we would have had Marley Park. You're providing extra trams if the weekend gone, which would have been the All Ireland Hurling. You're liaising with the NTA, TII, Irish Rail, Dublin Bus. So it's a huge
operation.
It's a huge operation, and it's
a lot of people moving around.
Like Transdev in Ireland alone has probably over 800 staff, which is huge. Directly we probably have about 250 people directly to us. So
does everyone go in at the driver level and progress up, or do people come in at different positions?
No, so there's other positions as well, like revenue. They're like revenue and security would be, obviously you see the security guards out there. The revenue would be people asking for tickets. Then they link into their managers who link into myself. So you've kind of although I'm in an operations department, you've kind of an oversight of the whole company. the whole company, yeah, and you kind of have to have your fingers in a lot of pies, like, and you have to jump between both, and then you're linking in with HR and things like that. But like things like you're tracking like absence figures, absence percentages, trends in absence, financial impacts, trends and financial impacts, because you have to kind of see, is there a decision that's being made that's costing the company money, that type of thing, like, and you're kind of having oversight, and you're attending meetings, stuff like that, like, and like I think the big thing that we would have dealt with the last couple of years was the Garth Brooks concerts. So they would have been huge. There would have been a lot of, like, even Patrick's Day every year. Like there's probably 6 months of meetings to build up to them big events, Pride, all these type of things. They're huge. Like anything that impacts the running of a transport system in the city.
You're involved in it.
Yeah, you'd be involved in it.
And are you just over like one line, like the Green Line, or
no, over the entire network? Yeah. So over the 3 depots, as I said, you Broombridge and Sandy from the Green Line. Broombridge is the Luas Cross City that opened in 2017 it opened, so that opened then. Oyster Drive when it opened, stuff like that, like, which is grand, because I think one thing that I suppose I have in me kind of locker is the fact that I understand
what's going on out there.
Yeah, and I understand that all the driver can be very frustrating, like can be certain things that they're frustrated about that they escalate. So I think it's good that I've come in as that, even though I did a year and a half, is it?
Yeah.
I understand
the
role of the driver, the implications of what your decision in an office, in a depot, many miles away can have on the driver and things like that. And I think it's good that I'm glad I started from that level. As I said, I understand it's a hard job, understanding what goes into it, and then the other role in between. I was after I left the driver's role after 18 months, I was an incident manager and a team leader. I did that for about 15 months, and then I was lucky enough that I applied for the role that I got now, and I was lucky enough to get it. I started that in October 2019. So realistically, within 3 years,
you moved up the ranks pretty quick. So
I did, Like, so I'd be in senior management now, and I sit on a lot of kind of bits here and there that have been great for me, but I've had to learn as I went, like, because I left the army with certain traits, both good and bad, but like there's been kind of a lot of on the job learning, and they're a great bunch in those, like people have given me their time, and that's all you can ask for with people is their time, and I'd always make sure that I remember that, like, and I said to you off, like, there's two rules that I always go by is kind of like never forget where you came from, and try to bring as many people on the journey with you as you can, like, and I think if everybody who left the army did that, then the civilian street would be a much better place for military and ex-military people, because it's always great to have an inroad somewhere, like, and as I said, we have a lot of ex-military who've come in before me in the Luas and after me. Some make a success of it, some don't. Some are a bit too much institutionalised, and that they end up either reverting and going back to the army or else leaving. But I think it's great inroad to have people in a business that are ex-military, because they understand you that much better. Like.
Definitely. Did you know when you left the army, right, and you went into Luas, or when you became like a manager in Transdev, did you have KPIs when you left? And then how did you find, right, having KPIs in a job now where you probably would have never had KPIs?
Well, even as a driver, you have a KPI.
Yeah. Like, well, it's never pointed out that you have KPIs.
Yeah, but like
you have this target now.
You have this target, so like you have a timetable. So your KPI is to drive to the timetable in the safest possible way. So that's your main KPI. Well, being on time. And like the start times are very odd in the Luas. Like, as I said, it runs, like the operation doesn't really settle down. Like, it probably runs till about 1:30 in the morning and starts at 4 a.m. But in between that window, there's a lot of maintenance moves, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of maintenance and infrastructure works online, isolations in place from all the overhead power cables that you need, substations closed off for people to work on electrics, for the guys in maintenance, track repair. All this goes on, so it's 24/7. It's not as if like the first tram service is 5:30 in the morning from a depot, but it's like a lot has gone on before that, like, and a lot goes on, like. But
24/7 operation.
It is a 24/7 operation, and especially I suppose in my role, like, as I said, like the weekend, like I would have been in work, I would have been on call. You're taking calls in out of hours. Like, if incidents happen, you could be getting calls at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. You could have to go back into the depot. You could be doing all sorts. You could have to go in. So, like, that's like with shift work. Like, sometimes this is the sacrifice you have to pay. Like, but dealing with KPIs I always found in a way can be difficult because obviously it's new to you. I'm well used to it now at this stage, but at the start it was alien to me.
Right.
Like you did a job, you were asked to do something in the army, you either did it or you didn't do it.
Yeah.
It was done or it wasn't done. You completed or you didn't complete. Where now there's no kind of like everything is tracked.
Yeah.
Everything is, and like you use systems like most big businesses, everything's tracked on dashboards and systems. So if you're not performing, like it can be seen, like whether that's the people in the grades below you, the people in the grades above you. But like sometimes I like KPIs because it gives you not a target, but it gives you
clear boundaries to work with.
Clear boundaries. So you know that you have X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And there's no grey area with that. These are your KPIs.
Yeah.
And like KPIs that I'd work off would be like minimising cost of the business, keeping your absence level down, monitoring it, providing a service, having a full fleet out online, liaising with different departments, attending specific meetings. These are all things. And that, like, if I was to walk into it now, say if I left the army and went into this role that I'm doing now, I'd probably find it quite difficult.
Yeah.
I think you need the foundation, and you need to have an understanding of a business, whether that's a transport business, or whether it's cyber security, whether it's IT.
Yeah.
I always think you need to build your foundation, and I'm not saying you go in at the bottom, which is not the case, but you always have to go into a business, I always feel, and build your way up, but getting a greater understanding of the business, what the decision making has, the impact on other people around you. Like if you're going into something like, a lot of people would join the army with a trade background, and then they leave the army after a few years and go back working themselves. So they're kind of self-sufficient in a way where they know their main KPI is to do the job that's there, to earn their money, do their tax, do their expenditures, do their VAT, all type like that. So that's fine. But when you're going into a business with hundreds, if not thousands of people, someone else's KPI is not your KPI, but you link in with their KPI. So if you don't do your KPIs, that has a negative impact on the people above you, who report to them. Like our head office is in Paris, in France. So although you think you're doing a good job, like people above you and below you and on the same grade would be quick enough to tell you you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, which happens on occasion. But sometimes that may be a reset. Then you go right.
Do you have a budget then, like a financial budget that you have to work within as well?
There would be a financial budget, yeah.
How did you find dealing with like finances and never having dealt with finances in
there's a finance department in Transdev, which is great because they're obviously
they keep you on track.
They keep you on track, and as well, like there's like most people, you have to raise POs in the procurement department. So even something simple as very simple, and we go out in the canteen breaks. It's not as if you just buy one. Like you have to raise your PO, you have to understand the cost of something, things like that. But dealing with finance, so like it would be that I directly manage the budget, like, but I'd have to kind of liaise with people if I needed something or there was something coming up that I needed a specific budget for. I go to them, and then they kind of write, this is your X amount.
This one.
And then, but as well, like you have to answer for that. Like if you spend it on one thing, you make sure that you have the receipts for it. You make sure that it's justified. You make sure that there's a need for it. That's an advantage for the business. Like as I said, microwaves, like you have big canteens and depots, people heat up their fluid. Like if you don't have microwaves there or canteen facilities, it has a negative impact on the workforce then because they can't eat their fluid, which means then it's another headache. So I'm using that as a very kind of run of the mill thing. So that's kind of like, I wouldn't be dealing with millions like or nothing like that. But my budget would link in then with the higher budgets and stuff like that. Like, but you'd have to be answerable for your expenditure and stuff like that. Like, which is something I never had in the army. I never had to, like, because if you needed something, you went to someone and you got it, or you didn't get it. Simple as that.
Dealing with cash flow was massive for me, like having no like financial experience. Like I had like had it from an academic point of view, and like ops in the army like is different. But like no financial budget and
well, lucky enough now, no matter what role I've had, I never had to deal with
the financial
paper money, like paper money of it. Like it's never something like like when I'm out when I was a tram driver, you have ticket machines, you have parking bays, you have this, that, and the other, and there's a revenue team there. Now I'd be kind of, it kind of links into my KPIs, the expenditure and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and you'd see trends and like standard fare notices, which is if you don't have a ticket, and how that impacts the budget of the company and things like that, like whether they're paid, so there's a certain time limit when they can pay them. People, not everybody on the transport system has it's not like Dublin Bus where you get in the front door and the driver's there, it's an open system.
Yeah.
People do get on trams and don't pay. That's up to revenue and security, they kind of monitor.
What line has the most amount of non-payers?
Jeez, I wouldn't say. But like it's like people from all walks of life, like it's some
or just take a chance there.
Some people are opportunistic and they just take a chance. They might get away with it for a couple of days, then they don't get away with it. Some people might get away with it for longer than others. You might get on, and then you have genuine people, like with the lead card system and the 90-minute fare. People think they've tapped on, then they didn't realise that they haven't. It's not a big deal. Once they have a justified reason, there's always a discussion that can be had.
Yeah.
It's not as if someone makes a mistake, you're
hitting them.
Like there's justifiable people and there's situations that occur, but then you have your known offenders who I'm sure the revenue team would now be able to point someone out in a crowd.
Yeah.
That they always use the system
offenders,
because it's not like London Underground where you have to go through the barrier and you have to tap and you have to use card in London and stuff like that in the UK. Like here, like it's not that, it's an open system, like so. And the tram stops at every single platform. Some of the trams are 55 metres long, some of them are short, or some of them are this. The driver's at the very front, he's not going to be able to know who's getting on the very back door at 50 metres away kind of thing. So, but that's kind of the budgetary expectancy that we have, like so. There'll be, and then the information we get would link into other people's information, and there's always someone above you who you're answering to, and the snowballs, that type of thing,
So then last two questions then, right? So the army as a career then, would you recommend it for like someone leaving school or like finishing up? Or?
I don't think the army is a career.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't think it's a career now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many people serving and not serving would probably disagree with that.
Yeah.
I just don't see the youth of today. I'm thinking me when I was 17 applying.
Yeah.
I view it as a career. I think it's great for people. I do think, and I'd encourage anybody to do, like obviously your first contract 0 to 5 years. I think it's a fantastic thing. It's one of the best things you can have in a CV. It's one of the greatest experience you can have. I don't think people go into it, like I went into it thinking this is me for life. I'm here for life. And I just don't think people see it as that anymore. There's a lot, obviously, negativity towards the Defence Forces, which is sad because, like, listen, everybody has different experiences of it. I had a fantastic experience. I had hard times, I had good times.
Yeah.
And then you go and things like that. But I don't, like, my young lad is 8.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying he wants to join the Navy and he's big into it and stuff. Like he's never known me to be in the army.
Yeah.
But he never asked me nothing about the Luas. He always asked me 101 questions about the army and all, like. Yeah. So like he maybe out of every 10 questions he asked me, 9 of them about the army. Like. Yeah. So I know, obviously, and I probably if my father had been in the I would have been the same. Which he wasn't. There's no point asking because you can't answer them. But where now I can answer them from, and I still have, I'd like to think, a very good knowledge of the Defence Forces and military and things like that. But he'd often say, I'm going to join the Navy, like, and like. Would you be happy for him to join? No, I wouldn't. No, and as I said, like he's 18, so it'll be another 10 years. But I'd love him to learn from my mistakes I'd love him to go to college. I'd love him, and I think his mum would be the same, she'd love him to go to college. But she'd love him if he's going to leave to go into a trade, something that you can make as a career. Because yourself, like the world now, you have the Middle East is booming, Canada, America, Australia, all these type of things. If you have a trade background, you can walk in with it, and you know yourself. Yeah. You probably know 100 people like me who have gone to Canada, gone to America, gone to Australia, gone to Saudi, gone to all these places and made a great life for themselves on the back of a trade. Yeah. Where I'd love them to do something like that, or else have that as a key skill kind of thing. Yeah. But I don't know, like I just say to people, it's a great experience to have 0 to 5 years, have 5 years stint. If you can get an overseas, I mean, we know we do stints in Port Leash, we do things like that. All building blocks to a future career, to yourself. But I see it more of a short-term job than a career, being honest with you. I think if I was me now at 17, 18, I probably wouldn't join. I'd probably be more looking towards the guards, the fire brigade, that type of thing. And it's not to turn people off it. I just don't think, and I'm judging it from what I joined in about 3, started about 4, it's definitely not that job anymore. It's very, very much monitored by guidelines, monitored by rules. Now you should have guidelines and rules in all jobs, but you have to remember it's an army. It's the army. Like,
has to be a bit different.
It has to be a bit different. It has to be screaming and shouting. I think society has changed definitely over the last 5 to 10 years rather than what would have been when I joined. You to be very much be careful about your P's and Q's, how you approach people in situations. But I just don't think that. I think that's maybe why the Defence Forces is struggling for numbers, because people just don't have the same mindset on it and same kind of views. Definitely, even if you did 5 years, it's an advantage. As I said, if you were 18 or 19, you did 5 years and left, it's great to have in your CV the opportunities that you have, and it can change. Like, I don't know what I'd be doing if I didn't join the army. Let's be honest with you. I don't know what I would have done. I don't think I would have joined the guards. I don't think I would have joined. I'd probably be in a job that I hate. And I'd probably still be in it because I'd know no difference. Where the military gives you great key skills and kind of ability to decision making and see the world and experiences. It's a great experience. But I don't know. I think it definitely links into the fact that they struggle for numbers. Like, I think maybe, and I'll probably prove wrong, what they would have filled in a year now is probably taking 2 years. I know the numbers are below and things like that, but it depends. Everybody, like, if it's my son and he really, really, really wanted to go, of course you have to let people make their own decisions, right, wrong, or indifferent. You have to let them be the master of either their own success or their own downfall. But if he was completely focused on it, then you'd help him along the way and you'd encourage him and stuff. But I'd be more happy if he did like a trade or a college background or something. As I said before, I was 26 before I went to college. And at that stage, I was in the army. I was going to college at night. I was going to college 3 times a week. For 18 months. And it's hard. Where you're looking at it. And I was in college in DCU with people who that was their college. So when they went to college, they were killed. They were living the dream, happy out, probably still living in their mum and dad's, that type of thing. But it's different. You see, I know you used to be looking at them, and not that they didn't take it as serious as I did. I was saying, I'm not paying good money for this. Like, they're probably either
coming out of your own pocket, right?
It's hard earned. It cost me thousands of quid to go into it. And I was looking, saying, I have to see what this is going to do for me, and I have to make sure that I pass my exams. I can't be spending. I think I paid her $5 or $6 grand.
For the first year, was it?
For the 18 months, like. But like, if I'd have left and not passed me exams, that's down the drain. Like, I had to make sure that and you can see a difference in people, because they were all like, "Are you going for a drink?" I'm like, "I'm working tomorrow. Like, I'm doing this. So I have a 24-hour duty to do tomorrow," and like that, you know yourself. You have assignments, you have revision. You're on duty, although you're ready to go at all times, no matter what duty you're on. Head buried in books, you're doing this, that and the other, and it can be difficult. Where I'd like to take my young lad out of that situation, and I'd love him to either finish school, go into a trade, or else go to college. But you kind of want him to do something that he's passionate, and I'd always look at upon, like, I wouldn't judge anybody else, but mainly about what I'd look at me son and say, I want him to do something that he's going to love, enjoy. Like, as I said, I didn't like school, I wasn't mad into school. And it's probably part of the reason why I went to the army, because I couldn't see myself committing to college. My worst fear was having to say 4 more years. No way, couldn't wait to get out. Like, but when you mature and you get older, you realise, like, I'd love to go back now and do, say, night school and learn Irish or learn something. And sometimes you have to have an experience after school to realise you didn't take from it what you should have taken. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't discourage people going. I've often, even when I was left, to say, people come to you and say, would you be able to have a talk? My nephew's looking to join. I'd never tell them not to join. I'd never say, you tell them what to expect. And people have often come up to me and say, my son's going for an interview, what do you think? Absolutely. I'm delighted to hear people say that, like, and I tell them, like, never be negative about it.
Yeah.
You have to let people, your negative might be someone else's positive, that type of thing. And you wouldn't want to pigeonhole someone going in with the mindset going, Graham's up telling me it's going to be this, and this, and then it's not, because I don't know what the army is anymore. Like, like 8 years is a long time, like, and sometimes I pinch myself going, I can't believe I'm 8 years gone. I met one of the lads that served in the army probably about 3 months ago, and he says to me, "You're about 3 or 4 years gone now." I says, "I'm 8 years gone." Yeah. Oh my God, like how time goes. It flies. It's so different, like. But I think if you had someone who goes in for that 5 years, getting back to it, like, if they can get an overseas, get the discipline into them, and that's the biggest thing that I found, like, the discipline, the self-discipline, and the understanding that your actions have an action and a reaction on someone else, and that people around you depend on you. You have to be true to your word, you have to do what you have to do. And like, as I said, and anybody who served with me, particularly probably for the first 5 years of my career, I was never a super soldier, nothing like that. I did what I had to do. Sometimes it was just about did what I had to do. But then when you get this level of maturity, and I think one of the big things in the army is probably agree with, is sports and a base level of fitness can mean a whole lot to you, because sometimes people go into the army, and I've seen it when I was in recruit training, that people who don't have kind of a base level of fitness struggle because the physical side of it can really, really affect them, and they can get down themselves. And realistically, you're saying to yourself, like, when I joined the army, I wouldn't say I was fit, but you get fit. And then it was probably my first overseas tour where I really kind of tuned into fitness and what the impact that could have on my role as a soldier and your outside life and things like that. So there's so many things, like your self-discipline, all that you can learn, like, in the army. I'm still very militarian, I say to the young lad all the time, everything has a place. Don't leave stuff on the floor, hang that up, put that there. And it probably annoys the life out of people. And sometimes people would look at it upon being too restrictive or too, but no different, like what they say, like, pick it up if it falls, everything has a place, put it back where you got it, all this type of thing and all. But it's, although I'm 8 years gone, I'm not, in a way. Psychologically, I'm still in the army, and like, as I said, some people laugh at it and some people have an understanding of it, but it can probably be annoying for some certain things. Like,
definitely. It also builds, right, self-belief as well, right? So like, you probably wouldn't have had the self-belief to go for the promotion and move up the ranks as quick as you did, like, in 3 years. Like.
You have to have confidence in your own ability, like, and as much as I, at times, I do be stressed, although I might not show it. Sometimes I do show it, sometimes I don't mean to show it, but it can come out in other ways. You could be narky and cranky, and sometimes you just want to be left alone. Like I'm lucky enough, I have an office by myself now, which is great in a way, because you can bury your head and get work done and things like that. But like, sometimes you want to chat with people. Now I float around. I'd be around depots, the Red Cow. I'm based at Red Cow. I'd be around all different places. Like, sometimes you need to be in a group environment and understand and listen to discussion. I'd always go into the canteen where the drivers are and the other staff, make me coffee. I always making me business. I always make it. It's probably very simple things, like I making me business to know people's names. Two things I'd always think it's very important to know people's names, and I'd like to know one personal thing about them. Like, I'd like to be able, if someone's having like an issue at home, you say, if they have a family member who's ill, you have to understand that, because, like, say someone driving a tram with a 10-minute delay to one person, they're not on time and this has this impact and all. Sometimes I've been in that position. I drove trams with 10 minutes delay when my father was ill. Sometimes I had to leave trams in town, in Conley, in Bellegarde, because say he had been taken to hospital. Other people have these things, and you can't judge a book by its cover, that everything has that kind of thing. But like, I think you definitely have to know people's names, because it's a respect thing as well. Like, and it's easy I think, lads from Dublin, it's very easy. 9 times out of 10 you walk past someone, how are you, pal, how's things, bud, that type of thing. But you have to know people's names. And it's a very small percentage of a thing that you have. But I think, like, if I walk past someone who not outranks you, but in a higher grade or higher role, and they say, how are you, Graham, how's things, you feel like
part
of the team. Where if you're walking past someone and you say the wrong name, how are you, Peter, if the name's John, kind of thing, like that, small things. Like, if someone called me a wrong name, we go, here 8 years, like you think you'd know my name, like that type of thing. But it's nice to know people, and like I know a lot about. And my go-to would be the driver's grade, obviously because I was a driver. I was one of them 200 odd drivers. I can understand them. I know the hardships that they have, and kind of the, how would you explain it, like the misrepresentation that they may get sometimes and in society and things like that. But like you think of it, like we've all dealt with the COVID aspect. Like we ran a full service.
All through COVID.
All through, the only transport company in the whole of mainland Europe that ran a full service through COVID. Now the trams may have 8 people instead of 380 people, but they still ran. Like at the end of the day, you think about the lines, like the Red Line, you have James's Hospital, you have Tala Hospital, you have St. Patrick's Hospital, you have all these. People needed to go places. Like I know decisions were made in the HSE and things like that, but we were in a position where we were able to transport frontline workers and people who needed it to get to work, whether they were off work or work from home. And I know it's a very different society now, post-COVID and pre-COVID, even hybrid working, it's like a thing now, when before it was like work from home. And myself, I was in operations, I never worked from home through COVID. I was in the office, I was in the depots, I was here, there and everywhere. But I think if you understand your workforce, and even down to simple things like know people's names, and like something that I'd always do,
get the basics right,
lay a foundation. If you give people your time, they'll give you your time back. And like we train drivers in groups of 4, so we have 1 trainer and 4 trainees at one time, so that's your ratio 1 to 4. So like at the end of their 8 weeks, I will always go down when they're finishing up their last day and speak to them, and I'd always tell them, like, it's not gloating or anything, but I'd always say to them, I was you 8 years ago, like, I understand, because not to saying people, it's not sounding silly or nothing, like, people would see me go around and like me kind of smart, casual kind of clothes, and they're in their uniform and bits like that, and like, they probably see it as like, not everybody, but like senior manager, if you're not an understanding of something and someone says senior manager, you think, oh, well, I'm not, like, I came from accounts estate, I came from a normal, very normal upbringing, like born in Clondalk and grew up still living in Clondalk, that type of thing. It's not as if I'm rocking into things like, and I'd always talk to them, say, people have to understand, and you always have to have light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I'd be looking at other jobs above me saying, I could do that, I want to do that. And you want people coming in not to think, I'm going to drive forever. You're not going to drive forever. You want to drive forever, you'll drive forever. But sometimes you need a couple of years. You might go through the ranks. And we have people in other grades that are in the same level as me, that are in the instant manager role, that are ex-army, some of them from the military police, some of them from, like, we have members of staff from like the ranger wing, you have all this type of people, like, and like it's great for people to see. So I'd go down to the group of 4 when they finish, and there'd be other trainers there, and I'd always talk to them and say, like, my name's Graham, I do this job. Because if they understand what you do, and you don't just walk past them in the corridor, because it can be very like ghostly, if even, like, you always have to have and at the end of the day, I'd like to think that I have a very good rapport with all grades, all staff. Like, if I don't know someone's name, I might ask someone else, and we say, kind of, what's that chap's name, or what's that girl's name, or whatever. You understand it, and sometimes you say, how are you, John, and they're, oh, how's things, and they're surprised you know their name. Like, at the end of the day, it's the very small things that get people on board. And I definitely think it's a team environment and a team ethic that I took from the army in regards to definitely understand your kind of general population of people, like.
And if someone wants to become a Luas driver then, right? Because I know it's not like doing bus, it's not like advertised or something.
No.
How do they become a Luas driver?
Generally, they would know someone who works there.
Yeah.
Like, I've often had people come up to me and you're explaining the role and like different types of things, and generally what they would do is, now I know it would be on Indeed now, which is
on the Transdev website as well, I think.
Transdev website. The Luas has never really been a job where they struggled for staff, like struggled for employees. It was always like the opposite. Like, your application or CV could be a needle in a haystack. Like, and I know people have said like they've applied and they get say we received your CV, we get back to you. It could be months before they're back to you, like, and you're probably surprised. Some people have moved on to other roles, other jobs and stuff like that. But excuse me, the best thing to do would be, if you don't know someone, like, put in your CV, send an email, go onto the Transdev website. there'd be links there.
Yeah.
But now, like, you think that the Luas is there since 2003. Very few people probably don't know someone who works in the Luas. Like, as I said, like, it's 800 plus employees. People who have worked for them have left in other jobs and this type of thing. But like, probably what I did.
Yeah.
It's great to have someone who was in the company, but outside of that, send in your CV, like, and that's just.
Is the turnover high in Transdev or in Luas?
Not massively, no. It's
pretty
like,
low.
yeah, like, we've drivers that are there since before the Luas was the Luas, like,
Yeah.
and like the original groups went to Sweden to try because there was no tram
To get trained up on a tram.
To get trained up on a tram, yeah. So they would have went and we would have had trainers over 2003, and training the original people. And
Yeah.
the vast majority of them are still there, like, so they're like the years are like, when you're talking to a young lad in the army on your recruit training, and you're a great lad for 10 years, and say, the first 10 years are the hardest. There's Luas drivers there with that, like, first 20 are the hardest, that type of thing. So it's very similar in that way, the all splits, yeah. But you have them, and then you've other people who are newer and stuff like that. But like, it's one of them things where there's just such a vast array of people from all walks of life. Similar, as I've said at the start, Luas drivers and Luas staff and the army are very similar. There's some lads from flat complexes in town, rural Ireland, Mullingar, Balbriggan, up the north, all over the place, who have either travelled from their home to the Luas or else have moved, and this is that type of thing. So very similar, kind of, very similar. Like,
so you mentioned earlier that you have sorry, I almost said 2 more questions while rambling. Sorry, you 10 people from the army that have joined like Transdev or Luas.
Since me, yeah.
Is there like a veterans program like in Transdev, like to integrate like army in, or is it the same?
It's definitely something that jumps off a CV. Like, if I'm people, I look through CVs for drivers and stuff like that, and generally, if I'm not looking through it and army is on it, the people in HR would generally reach out and say, do you know this bloke, or do you know this girl, or do you know anything about them and stuff, because it's a big output, both time and financially, to train someone up to be, say, a Luas driver or whatever. And as I said, it's not something where you want to put 8 weeks into someone and go 24/7 into them for them not to be the right candidate. They have to be the right candidate. But like, as I said, like, probably since I've started in the Luas, probably, I'd say up to about 10 people have joined, and a lot of them would have been talking to me about it, have applied previously, and say, apply again, and give people a helping hand where you can. As I said, don't forget where you came from, and bring as many on the journey as you can. If you can help someone out, by all means. But like, it's definitely something that jumps off a CV. Whether that's me in an operations manager's role, looking at someone looking to be a driver, or someone looking for promotion that has a military background. Same way, if it's anything, if it's a warehouse, because you're generally getting discipline, timekeeping, attendance, 3 of the basic core things that you want in any workforce. You want people to be on time, you want them to attend work, and you want them to have discipline, and an understanding that if you give them a set of criteria, like, say, 10 things that they need to do as a tram driver, you need to stick to the 10 of them. I definitely find people with military are able to adapt and take that on board. Much easier than maybe some people who never served. I'm not saying people who never served can't, but it's definitely something that I think anybody in any walk of life, if they have a CV that has military service on it, whether that's 1 year or 10 years or 14 years or 21 years, it definitely stands out. And I think I've rarely in my job come across anything negative. Rarely. Listen, you always have one or two. You're never everybody's perfect, but I'd say my view on it would be people from the military are most welcome, very welcomed, applying for jobs, because you're going to get the core things from them.
Were you the first one?
No.
Out of the army into the Luas,
no? So there's people before me, like, that I probably wouldn't have known. Lads who did 30 years in the army, left and drove the Luas. Other lads, as I said, we people from the MPs, military police who were in it. Other people that maybe I would have been known, but over the years, talk to them, and they'd say, I used to be in the army. I didn't know that, like, and stuff like that. But you definitely see a difference in them. Like,
I think actually, military police, right? I'm only starting to recognise it in the last kind of 12 months, right? Military police are becoming like the most re-employable people in civilian street.
It's not very well educated.
Yeah.
Like you have
the investigation side of things.
Absolutely, yeah. Like we deal with REOU, which is the Railway Accident Investigation Unit. If there's an incident or anything like that, so that was I didn't know any of that. Like I never had to deal with any of that in the army, but now I know what it is, what's reportable, what's not reportable. But you find people, military police, whether that's in the Luas or in any job, they have such a great understanding about safety management, incident management, this type of thing, which is a huge
process and procedures.
Great process procedures and everything. Like everything you want to hear is process procedures, and you are dictated by that.
Yeah.
Probably definitely. More so. Probably you definitely are in the army. Maybe not directly, but in kind of a way. But
a bit more autonomy in the army. Like you do what you kind of want. Just doesn't matter how you get the job done. Just get it done.
Once it's done, yeah. Get your head down, be thick about it, and get on up the road, kind of thing. Like where outside in C Street, and it's definitely things that you have to adapt to come from a military point of view. That it's not like by all means possible. It's like no, you have to do it, but you have to do this, and this to get there. And you're going okay, and that's it. Like you don't have that wiggle room or freedom. But it's definitely like as you said, like you have people come from the military police who have a great expertise in accident investigation, crash investigation, post-incident management, which is all huge things. I'm talking from a Luas background and like an incident manager background. That these are huge, and it's probably a credit to myself where I could take them skills from the military into the role. Like people would say, Jesus, you got promoted very quick, and I did, and like none of it was easy. Like you have to work hard. Like at the end of the day, whatever people's opinions you are, and like obviously. When I moved from a driver's role to an incident manager role after 18 months, which is great for me.
Yeah.
Obviously some people weren't happy. He could have been there 10, 15, 20 years and the attitude could have been, how's he doing that? And there's a bit of jealousy towards it and stuff. But at the end of the day, if you do the job and do the job right and show people that you were the right candidate for it, I think people will always have opinions.
Yeah.
No matter what, whether you are doing the best thing in the world or the worst thing, people will always have opinions. And you have to let them have that. At the end of the day, once it doesn't impact you on how you do your job, like I wouldn't let someone's negativity towards me impact how I do my job.
Yeah.
Because I'm like that, as we spoke about, confident in your own ability and confident in my ability. I know if I have a job to do, what to do, how to do it, and how to go about it. And I'll always be that. Like, as I said, there's some people that do my job who are in their 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
I'm 37. So you can never make 20 years on someone. It's just not possible. But if you show the people around you and the people that you work for that you are able to do what you have to do, and which is definitely something that the confidence that I took with me from the army, because I was confident in what I had to do in the army, I was confident in the abilities, I knew my boundaries, I knew what I wasn't good at. As I said, map reading, radio, things like that. Brutal. There's things in my job now, and probably my biggest downfall would be technology, like probably Excel, all this type of thing. I can get it done. I might have to say, here Connor, how do I do this? Or you might do something with spreadsheets and things like that, especially when it comes to finances, because you know at the very bottom right, this is what all the rest of the stuff has to amount to, and you're looking at this thing like a minefield going, oh God. No, I'm more confident now, but definitely at the start, like emails, all that fine stuff like that. But even you look at that, I left the army not knowing how to send an email. I never had an office job. They only do that. Like in transport, you did documentation, but it was on paper format. But now society and jobs have moved away. Like you don't have paper format. Like in the Luas, we work off dashboards, we work off apps on work phones, we work off dashboards on laptops. We do all this type of thing, and you're able to monitor what you're doing. Things go up, things go up, KPIs. That type of thing, where in the army was real, like even you put 20 quid worth of diesel into a car, it was always you have to sign it, they have to sign it, and this all this so documented and written in hand. You're probably saying this thing, like I need to keep your paper format for 5 years, your GDPR, all this type of thing. But it's definitely stuff I'm more comfortable now, but it's probably something I'm never going to be fantastic at, is like technology and dealing with it. Now I can put PowerPoint together, I can do things like that. I've relied heavily on people around me in past years, where now I can do it myself. I'm not going to be teaching anybody to do it. But like I can get myself out of a hole. And you have to understand your own downfalls and your pitfalls and what you are good at. And one of the big things is you have to know how to ask for help.
Yeah,
And
true.
you have to always be able to say and understand, right, I could do this myself and it'd be grand. But sometimes grand is not good enough.
No,
You
no.
might have to say, listen, I know you asked me to get back to you in 3 days with this. Is there any chance you give me 5 days because I need to do it? And be honest with people.
Yeah, just so they're going to have to use the system.
Yeah, say, I'm going to have to ask Joe Blogs to help me do this in order. Yes, I'm not saying I'm not doing it, but can you give me a little bit extra time and take into consideration that? And be honest, and I'd always say to people, even when I went for jobs, like they'd always say to you, what's your biggest strength and weakness? And I'd say weakness would definitely be like working with technology. Not that I can't do it.
Yeah.
And they'd understand, like I'm there nearly 8 years, as I said, and it's like they understand what I can and can't do.
Yeah.
I go into senior management meetings now, I have all my statistics, all my figures, and it's one of them things I probably have too much information now because I'm saying they're not going to catch me out. And it's probably a real put the safety barrier around you, which is great in a way. You're never going to leave yourself all open.
Yeah,
like,
it's better to be looking at it than looking for it. Right?
Absolutely. I'd rather be asked the question and be able to answer it because there's nothing worse than in a room full of 15 people, someone saying, what was this for? And you're going, I'll have to get back to you there.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather say it's because of this and the reason it's so low is because of X, Y, and Z that you probably didn't take into consideration because you have to think of this.
Yeah.
And there's always, if you have one thing I definitely am is when I go into meetings, I generally either know what they're going to ask me and have it prepared, or be able to, if I'm caught off guard, I'd like to think that I build a very good knowledge any time that I can answer it. To the best of my ability, and I'd always say to them, like the army, I don't know the answer, but I'll get back to you. And you always definitely like your word.
Yeah.
If you say to someone, I'm going to get back to you, I'd walk out of the office, straight back upstairs and go, right, and get it and give it, say, apologies about not having that information, here it is now, and the reason it is X, Y, and Z. Type of things. And you have to be about your word. And if you're going to tell someone you're going to do it, not be just, I'll forward that onto you and good luck. You have to be, because next time then, you could be genuine and get caught off guard, you say to them, oh yeah, I get you, and they're going, yeah, like you were the last time kind of thing.
Yeah.
You have to be a man of your word or a woman of your word and do your be dependable and give them the information that they're looking for. Like.
I think that wraps it up. You have enough?
Yeah.
There's something else that you want to cover? Or
No, I'm full, well,
thanks very much.
Happy enough that I was able to, as I said, I always like having a yap with people. I'd often be in the Luas, and there's obviously people I work with that, as I said, that were in the army, and we'd be yapping away and telling stories, and people would be in pure disbelief, like you'd be telling stories about recruit training,
maybe play a book for you.
And they're going, oh my god, and they're going, oh, it's just an army, you'd be laughing about it now. You're probably crying about it when I was 17, 18, back in 2004, slowly dying of death. But it's definitely things where I always, as I said, I think it helps that I still have some of my best mates, some great pals that are still in the army. You'd be talking, they'd be telling you, some of them be saying you got out at the right time and all this type of thing, but others then still love it, and you have to take that. And it is a career for people, but I always love talking about the army. I probably still talk about it too much, as I said, I'm a young fella, out of every 10 questions, 9 will be about the army. And yesterday, is that an air car helicopter? Yeah. Did you ever jump out with them? And all this type of thing, which is great because you say, yeah, we did. All this type of thing, which is experiences that you take in the army and you leave it as that's the run of the mill normal. But the people outside like that, what did you do? What was your last role in the army? Drove tanks. Where did you drive them? Drove them in Lebanon, drove them through Beirut, the border up here, there and everywhere, and it's like, whoa, my God. But to you, it's like, sometimes you have to live to realise what you've done. And it's definitely something that I think military people and ex-soldiers really need to give themselves more of a pat on the back and have a realisation to how much of a credit they are to themselves, their employer and their family than they actually give themselves credit for. Because it's easy to just think, sure, well, it was what it was, or I was told to do it, so I did it. No, but you did it, you did it, and you're a credit to yourself. And I definitely think people leave the army with a certain level of confidence, but they should be more confident in what they did, because they did make a difference, and it can be very easily forgotten about, whether that was here, whether that was in the city, whether that was in Dublin, on the border, whether that was in Beirut, Chad, Kosovo, Libya, Liberia, Mali, anything that Irish people and Irish soldiers have made a difference, and that might be forgotten about by some people, but it won't be forgotten about by the people who make it possible. So it's definitely something that I always tell people: be confident and appreciate what you give, and that's why you like to see people when they leave do well. You say they're giving time to this country, as cheesy as it sounds. I know the Americans are heroes in it, and they treat their veterans very well. But sometimes with the Irish and the ex-military, it's outside our mind, which is not the way to go, because No,
much
and I'm putting
undervalued.
time into people who are in their 60s, 70s and 80s. Fantastic experience, fantastic input that they get to the country and the Defence Force and the Army and stuff. But people in their 30s left as well, and they need, sometimes you need to reach out and see if they're alright as well. And as I said, some people leave and they do great for themselves, some people don't, and they should get the same input post-military as they did in it, and as well as people like the great organised situations like the ONE and the Veterans Association. Fantastic. And I like don't refer to myself as a veteran, like, and there's people say never. Like, you think veterans are the lads who are on the walking stick, World War I and all this type of thing, who were in all these countries back in the 50s and 60s and 70s and all. They're veterans. I'm not a veteran, but at the end of the day, as I said, I'm 37, I left when I was 31. I am a veteran. Sometimes you have to think about it that way, the same way you are, the same way everybody else who lives is, and I suppose they're a credit to themselves, and they should really feel more proud of what they did than probably some give themselves credit for.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.